The enemy of fear is optimism. The enemy of fear is optimism. I happen to be an unwavering optimist, overly optimistic. Some people roll their eyes at that. Lots of smart people, really smart, kind of realist, analytical, logistical, operational people find that to be immature and unrealistic and just not practical in any way, shape, or form, thinking that optimism is going to get you through the hard things. I'm just here to tell you, it's worked for me so far. My ability to stay optimistic in the hardest times of my life, feeling like just my absolute sheer willpower and optimism will get me through. And I might not win the race. I might not make the most money. It might not be the prettiest thing, but I have found optimism to be the catalyst to powering through fearful moments in life.
An entrepreneur straight out of New York City, Michael Chernow was cracking.
What up, guys? Welcome back to the Creatures Have a Podcast. Here is another solo episode with moi today. And I want to talk to you guys about fear and what fear can do to you and me. Fear is a real thing in life. Everybody has fear. And sometimes fear can be our greatest motivator. And sometimes, and other times, fear can lock us in a box. And we feel stuck and alone. And one specific thing I want to talk to you about fear is when we're looking down the barrel of something scary, something new, something hard. I guess I can only speak for me, but I would imagine that a lot of us have a similar kind of experience with this. We feel like we cannot do it. We feel incapable. Like all of a sudden, something scary, something new shows up, and that fear kind of the walls begin to cave in a bit, and we, for whatever reason, make a judgment that we're not capable of doing it, that it's not possible for us. And in many cases, that will prevent people from actually doing things that are hard and scary. What I'm here to say is that like my life has been plagued, quote unquote, plagued with scary thing after scary thing after scary thing. And where I have found the most growth in my life is when I've faced those fears and faced those scary things, regardless of how I feel. The enemy of fear is optimism. The enemy of fear is optimism. I happen to be an unwavering optimist, overly optimistic. Some people roll their eyes at that. Lots of smart people, really smart, kind of realist, analytical, logistical, operational people find that to be immature and unrealistic and just not practical in any way, shape, or form, thinking that optimism is going to get you through the hard things. I'm just here to tell you, it's worked for me so far. My ability to stay optimistic in the hardest times of my life, feeling like just my absolute sheer willpower and optimism will get me through. And I might not win the race. I might not make the most money. It might not be the prettiest thing, but I have found optimism to be the catalyst to powering through fearful moments in life. One piece of that that's hard for me, though, is if I am surrounded by negative people, people that are not going to subscribe to the optimism, people that are going to look for, the 9 things that make it impossible to do, and look at all those things and just say, look, the writing's on the wall here. Here, this is it. This is what it says. Like, this isn't going to work. If I'm surrounded by those people, it's very difficult for me to sustain this level of optimism that I know has gotten me through everything else in my life. So I try my best to either not surround myself with those people, or if I have no choice, really not allow those people to penetrate how I am thinking, feeling, creating. That's hard. However, on the flip side, if I am surrounded by optimistic people, and they don't have to be as optimistic as me, but if I'm surrounded by optimistic people, holy smokes, it doesn't matter what you throw my way or our way. You could throw anything. And I have no doubt in my mind. Now, I'm not saying I'm not scared. I'm not saying I'm not nervous or anxious, but the optimism tends to play a larger role for me. The enemy of fear is optimism. And so far in the 44 years of my existence, I have managed to not only get by, but thrive on optimism, grit, and emotional intelligence. I'm definitely not the smartest guy ever. I'm just not. And I'm cool with that. I'm not the guy that is really, crossing all my T's and dotting all my I's. I'm just not. Sometimes I wish I was, but I'm not. And so I have to use the things that come naturally to me and that I'm really good at, which is connecting with human beings at scale and doing my best to bring value there in anything I'm involved in. Relating to other people, listening to other people, connecting in a real authentic way. The way I am with you right now, sharing about, these things. So just remember, when you're one other thing that I think I'd like to mention. So there's a big difference between living in fear and living with fear. Living in fear sucks. Like I said, it's like you're put in a little box. You can't move too much. It's super dark. It's hard to breathe. You're alone, and that is how living in fear feels. Living with fear, the path I choose to take as often as possible. Not that I don't feel like I'm in that box every once in a while, but I choose the living with fear journey, which is basically I am very well aware that fear is alive and well. I put my arm around fear. I look at fear. I say, I know you're here. I'm still going to do what I've set out to do. And if you think you're going to take me out, okay. Anybody who's listening to this podcast, I'm actually looking to my right side, talking to fear. Okay, that could very well be your plan. I'm gonna continue with my plan, and we can live with each other until one of us wins. Cool? Cool. That's kind of what living with fear is like. And we have a choice there. It took me a while to figure that out. For about 11 years of my life, I was in a box. Drinking and using drugs and making a lot of bad decisions, trying to hide from life. Run away from all the problems because I thought I was fast enough to get away from life. Imagine that. Imagine being able to run away from your life. Impossible. Can't happen. Literally impossible. Unless, you're not alive, which sucks. But fear is real, and we all experience it all the time. Probably we experience more fear than bliss. Actually, I would say, now I'm not saying fear is being unhappy. I'm just saying having fear in your life on a regular basis is very common and normal. And being blissful, where it's just like you're absolutely in bliss, those are tough to come by. Fear, easy. Blissful, a little harder. It's a little harder. Doesn't mean you have to be, you can't be happy in fear, but I thought that would be an interesting one to share with you. So if this podcast resonated, made you think, made you feel a certain way, made you feel a little bit more comfortable in your current situation, what you're experiencing, share it with someone. Give us a 5-star rating and a review. I would really appreciate that. And subscribe to the pod. Keep tuning in. I love doing these podcasts. I love sharing these things with you guys. Until the next one, y'all. Peace.